What's up, my peeps? What's going on? G Money here with another story time. And story time episode 64. This takes us way back to the mid 80s. You can tell I'm old when we're going way back to the mid 80s for a little bit of humor. Uh, I did a lot of crazy things, as y'all may have realized, and at times people did crazy things to me. So when I was working with the Popo, also known as the Delaware State Police, as a dispatcher, uh, we would do a lot of crazy, practical jokes on each other. Crazy practical jokes on each other. So I'm going to share some of those stories, and it, it's like it's not just one story; it's a bunch of stories. Let's call it a montage, if you will. But all right, we used to have these. They look like a cardboard time clock card, but in the old days, it would be a they would we called them. It was a GB, so it had all the information. It would be handwritten on this card, and a GB was a general broadcast, which is basically what a lot of you see on TV. Bolo, be on the lookout, and for a stolen car or somebody involved in a hit and run or something like that. So I worked a lot of night shifts, and we worked in the same dispatch center with the county police, Newcastle County Police. And what a lot of the we would do at night is um, they would power down all the main lights, and then you had these little tiny lights that would light up your console, and most of the other room would stay dark. And it was crazy. We worked some crazy hours back then. I know at one time we worked what was called a 2-2-4 schedule, 2 10-hour days and 2 14-hour nights. And then we had a TV on our side of the room. The county police had a TV on their side of the room. And so, it was just crazy. But it seemed like the schedules was always changing. Like uh, the county police had a different type of weird schedule. They worked like 12-hour days at times, and it was just you never were always working with the same people like 100% during the shift. But anyway, let me get on with some stories here. These were some some were funny. Some people could have got injured, and some are just like just ridiculously crazy and funny. So the one that always there's several that always stick out in my mind, but like when we would do that power down, and I'm going to use my phone as an example. So you're holding up the phone, and the phone is basically like what we call the GB card, general broadcast card, and you would put out looking for stolen vehicle, blah blah blah, 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 all the information, and then different people. The consoles were really big. They were probably 4.5, 5 feet tall, almost, whatever. And different, there was different ways to do different jokes, and they went on for a while. And I'm not going to lie, I did partake on the giving side, not just the receiving side. But I'll never forget in the middle of a couple GBs, general broadcast, someone would get behind the console, and they had some type of aerosol can of something, and somebody got back behind there with like a lighter and sprayed whatever this was, and there was flames that like just went all the way up to the ceiling, and then here I'm trying to and you kind of scream in the middle of a general broadcast on live radio. It's not a good thing. It's a good joke though, good joke. But then the other one would be this was probably one of my all-time favorites. The county police got these. It it looks very much like the size of my phone that I almost dropped here, and they would get these like you call it a control device, I guess you would say. It wasn't. They were stun guns. I was almost called it a taser. I know it wasn't a taser, but the way it would work is there would be two prongs come up out of the top of each side, and when you press the button, there would be like you would see like electricity going between them. So if you hit somebody, it would kind of like immobilize them, and it they would lose functional capability. So there was this one sergeant, I forget what his name was. He from the county police. He would always come in there and be messing around with that thing, And then part of their training, you had to be, you had to be zapped yourself to understand what it does to you and how to react and everything. So he would come in there periodically and just zap somebody. Probably not the smartest thing to do for your today's times you would lose your job probably, but he would zap somebody. So then we 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 modified that joke that everybody was fearful that they were going to get tased or not tased, hit with the stun gun. So we would get the TV remote, which was actually a little bit thinner than this. Everybody knows what a TV remote looks like. And then when someone was on the radio, we would put that TV remote up against like between their shoulder blades or something like that, and then they would just freak out thinking they're being hit with the stun gun. Then they would just go ballistic and almost there was some pretty interesting jokes, but then. Uh, this is the one that went way out of hand. Uh, in the old days, everybody smoked in communications. I was one of the non-smokers, but you could say I was a smoker because I had to inhale all that secondary smoke. But when I say everybody, a lot of the people smoked, and it was all indoors. It wasn't really good, greatest ventilation system. But the same sergeant who had the stun gun prank, he brought over. They had these like little, I call them like a little tin or aluminum uh, ashtrays, whatever. So he sprinkled in a little bit of black powder. So anybody knows anything about what that can do, it. So there was a Corporal Pappas. I'll never forget him. He was from Kent County, but he was working in Newcastle County. Big dude, big dude. He was like 6'6", probably every bit of 300 pounds. Big dude, very nice guy. Well, he was smoking, so he he comes in, he smoke, he puts out his cigarette, and literally there's an explosion and a flame all the way up to his face and in front of. I'm laughing because he did survive. He ended up being very, very, very ticked off. I mean, like he wanted people fired and he wanted people's heads to roll. And so I think that finally all got smoothed over. And let me think of some of the other practical jokes. I was with one trooper one night doing a ride along, and the cops like to get their coffee and stuff like that, and I did too. I still do. We went into a place that was called Mr. Donut. I'm with Trooper Volk. He might have been a corporal at that time or a TFC, Trooper First Class. But we go into Mr. Donut, and we come out, and his police car has been stolen. Well, what the police would do in the old days, they didn't have the chips and all that stuff. Is like all the keys were pretty much universal. I'm pretty sure at that time when I say I'm right along with him in a Dodge Diplomat. That was the time they were using Dodge Diplomats or something. I'm pretty sure that's what it was, but it's irrelevant to the story. But the keys were all interchangeable. So he and another guy, Trooper Harris, who I've talked about a little bit in the past, those guys were good friends, and they were always, oh my God, it was nonstop practical jokes between these two guys. So Trooper Harris stole his police car, basically hid it, put it behind a motel about a block away, and then he was watching off in the distance to laugh and everything. And so that was a good one. Then one night, when I'm riding with Trooper Harris, he decides Trooper Volk was working the interstate. The interstate was 22 miles long, still is in Delaware. And they had these call boxes. You would pull down a handle and you had 4 buttons to push. One was, I forget the exact order. One was like for a tow truck or like vehicle assistance. One was for like an ambulance. One was for like police assistant. There's basically like 4 buttons. I forget what the 4th one was. It was definitely 3 buttons. It could have been 4, but so we're working late night. It's in the middle of the night. Things are slow. There's no crime going on, and so Trooper Harris tells me, he goes, "Hey, let's bust on like the interstate sector for the interstate was 33. So you would have like 33 Adam, 33 Bravo, 33 Charles, whatever. And I think Volk was either 33 Adam or 33 Bravo. Adam designated like 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Bravo was 11 to 7, and Charles was 12 to 8 a.m. 12 p.m. to 8 a.m. So 12 a.m. to 8 a.m. So I'm on the passenger side, which would be the call box side on the interstate. So Trooper Harris is running up and down the interstate telling me, "Get out, hit the button." So there must have been, I don't know, 50 of these call boxes. We hit almost every one of these call boxes, as a prank. I know a lot of people are not going to like hearing this, especially with police funding, but I'm pretty sure statute of limitations has expired by now. But so she kept sending Trooper Volk to all these call box activations, and there was every one he would go to, wouldn't be anything. So you could see where that went. And then the dispatcher finally said, I'm not going to repeat it because it might be deemed inappropriate. Basically, it said something like, "I think somebody's out there playing a game," or something like that. So trust me, I modified how I want to say that. But so then let me think about some of the other ones. Oh my gosh, there were so many. But I feel like there's one important one I'm forgetting. But oh yeah, the one that was where I was the victim. That's a good one. I'm sitting in the communication center. I was brand new. I might have been there maximum of 2 or 3 months, and we had high band, which was the high traffic call, where you're dispatching all the crimes and people, are calling in all the car stops, and just basically it's the high volume traffic channel. Then low band is where you would request data on, and like, can you run this license plate? There would be like 26, 29, which would be like a driver's license check and wanted check on an individual. So they might, relay the information, the name and all that. Or like a 1028 would be like a vehicle registration check. So I'm sitting there. It's got to be like close to 3 a.m. And I was driving a Pontiac Ventura. It's like a 72 Pontiac Ventura. I'm pretty sure it was 72 or 74. And I knew where I parked in the parking lot and all that. So Trooper Harris, once again, that guy, he was a piece of work, but we ended up being great friends. And he decides he's going to get me. And he got me. He got me good. So I'm being trained. So I'm kind of always have like a shadow supervisor with me. So everybody in the room apparently knew this gag was going to go on except for me. But he says, Recom, can you run a 1028 on this vehicle? I found it stuck down in the ditch off of Quigley Boulevard and all this stuff. And so he gives me the tag number, and it's my tag number. So I'm kind of like, my eye, you can't see my eyes right now, but my eyes are kind of like like rolling around. And so I just read all my information back to him. And I said, I just read it off like everything's cool. So I'm like, damn, I think someone stole my car. I'm like, man, what do I do now? So the lady, I forget, I could see her face. I can't remember her name that was training me. I said, can you give me a minute? I need to go check on something. She's like, yeah, no problem. So I run out to the parking lot real quick. I mean, like I was like, I'm running out there, and Trooper Harris is parked next to my car, and he's got his dome light on, and he's laughing at me, right? So I'm like, all right. So I decide I did this is where I really got myself in a little bit of hot water. I can't even tell you all the details, but basically, 45 to an hour later, I decided I'm going to pay him back, and it definitely backfired because I could have been in some serious trouble. That's about all I'm going to tell you. But anyway, what kind of practical jokes have happened to you? At some of your employers. I can tell you there was so many. I'm probably going to remember. This might only be part one of some of the practical jokes that did occur. Anyway, folks, I really appreciate all my peeps for tuning in, and I hope you guys are ready for a great weekend. I'll be talking to you soon, and remember, always know your legal limits. Peace out, and always try and help somebody.